guys ever have that one friend that you can just sit and talk for hours about everything that's going on in anything, and the discussions bring about arguments, different perspectives, and you try and understand each other to a common ground? I've got such a friend. His name is Sam Sherlock. Guys, my name is Pedro Relvas. I'm the host of the AI Alpha Project. And I've got a good friend of mine, Sam Sherlock. And we caught up recently and we had a discussion about giving the benefit of the doubt to meanness. We actually decided to record the conversation and evolved from there to how in certain relationships, how things are perceived and what our attitude is. So while we're always attracted to that bad boy or the bad girl, so I'm going to share that segment with you. It's about 20 minutes, guys. It's completely unscripted and unplanned. We're just sharing our thoughts and we tend to jump tangents a little bit, but I found it to be really amazing and it gave me some different perspectives to look at things, especially seeing where Sam's coming from, and I found myself challenged as I'm sure he did, and I think that's how we all grow. So have a listen. I hope you enjoy it. A lot of the time I hear people discussing and arguing, but I think like literally what you're asking from the other person, you're not giving. You're really not giving. If we move back to a personal relationship between two people, how I speak to you and how you speak to me, it's kind of like you offend me when you say this. You upset me. You make me feel like you don't care about me when you spend those hours at work. That's your fault. Now it becomes your problem. But it's not really. It's not your fault how I feel. And let me go a step further. What happens if I really don't give a shit how you feel? What happens if I don't care how you feel? Is that a problem for you?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because at the end of the day, it's all about, in a relationship, it's all about staving off that end if you don't want that end. If you don't care, if you don't give a shit, then the end is nigh. So it becomes a big problem. It needs to be mutual. There needs to be a compromise on the fact, going back to the working too hard thing. The ultimate solution for that is, okay, I'm working hard to provide and all that sort of stuff, but ultimately you don't care about that. That's not your issue. So I don't have to do that. Then there is another conversation of, okay, am I doing that for myself? Is that what I want? And then there becomes a conversation within me about my priorities. Is my priority my relationship, or is my priority my job? My priority is my job, then the end is coming for the relationship because we don't see it eye to eye. If my priority is the relationship, then, okay, you don't care about what I'm bringing to the table to a degree. There's, I can't just go right ahead and quit my job because there are realities of life.
I don't care the fact that you spend all that time at work. It doesn't bother me. I don't care.
If you're unappreciative,
I'm indifferent.
If you generally indifferent, it's game over. That's the only way it is, because it needs to be, I work too much. Okay, well, I'm doing that because I want to provide you and give you the best life. No, I don't really care. Game over. I work too much. Okay, but I'm doing that to give you a better life. I appreciate that, but it's not as important to me as spending quality time together. Okay, I understand that. Do I want to be working, or do I want to be focusing on my relationship? I want to be focusing on my relationship. Okay, I'm not going to work so much, and we're going to spend more time together.
So you want to focus on your relationship because of you, or because your partner has an issue?
Well, it depends. This is all purely hypothetical. Yeah. So it depends on my motives and priorities as a human. If my motives and priority...
But there's the next question is what I mean. Is like your motives and priorities as an individual, are they yours, or have they been learnt?
I think for the most part they're being bestowed
on you.
Yeah,
I agree. I think there's a big part of ourselves that even me at like my old age, I'm still learning about facts, things that I thought I really enjoyed, that I was really good and passionate about. I realized actually it's not really my thing. I'm way more interested in this. And obviously throughout life you have those digressions where you focus on other things. But even my belief systems when it comes to relationships, and any relationship, whether it's with your partner, with your kids, with your parents, colleagues, there's a certain characteristic behavior that we get instilled in our heads how people need to behave and perform. You started talking off by saying how people give more benefit of the doubt to nastiness or meanness as opposed to the goodwill of things. But I also noticed that with a lot of people, just one negative thing completely washes out all the positivity that they've made. So when I'm saying about this, why does that happen? Why is it that you've been attentive, you've done all these things, you've done all these amazing things with your partner, but the one big issue that could end the relationship is the fact that you spend too long at work? And that is a problem for that person, but it's up to them. It's not necessarily whether you're okay with that or not. I have to express how I'm feeling, but I'm expressing my thoughts, my feelings. It's not up to you to change your behavior when it comes to that. Because really, if you change your behavior to make me feel better and I haven't resolved the underlying issue, I'm just going to find a problem with something else. And it's just going to keep going around in circles because I haven't really resolved the issue underneath. The real underlying problem is why do I feel what I feel about you spending so much time at work? On the flip side of that is you could literally spend 12 hours a day at work, but be 100% attentive for the other 5 hours of the day that you're spending with your partner. And that may be enough to fill up their cup. But it's how do they feel when you're at work? Why is that an issue for me? Am I codependent? Am I afraid to spend too much time on my own? Am I feeling lonely? Do I feel neglected? And none of those are realistic things. They're just emotions that have come up because I've associated through my frame of reference, past experience, my mother bitching about my dad being at work, my past relationship when my partner had an affair at work. This is all hypothetical, but at the end of the day, this is what you start to question because you're relating past experiences to what's happening now and you generate a problem, but the problem is actually based on something that you've experienced before and is not real right now. Does that make sense? So, and I think that's what happens when we want to solve our problems, we go see a psychologist or a tarot reader or a friend or a counselor. The advice they give us is again saying, okay, well, it's obsolete. It's external to me. But really, that advice should then be questioned. You should take that on board and say, does this apply to me? Is this really how I feel? Is this really the go-to? One reason why you could be spending a lot of time at work is because you've been conditioned to think that a man's job is to provide for his family. It's not to love his family.
That's what I meant by bestowed.
Bestowed, exactly. So even then, your willingness to go to work has to do with the belief system. Your partner's willingness to stop you from spending so much time away from you is also based on the belief system. And I'm not saying that we don't have certain issues with something, but the moment we actually process that and we realize that the only problems we have are ours and nobody else's. When we're using things like even just the logical perspective of things, if I look at situations where you say, all right, take this pill, it's going to keep you healthy and safe. But then the judgment that you have according to other people that aren't taking the pill or aren't doing things for themselves. It's like, but you're okay, so why are you worried about them? And it's about having the freedom to allow others to also grow and learn in their pathway. So when it comes to I'm the first person that I'm fearful of losing relationships. I'm fearful of the end result. But a lot of that means if it's not the right relationship, then why am I fearful? Because at the same time, whatever it is, the prospect of learning, it isn't about, most people think relationships are there to make you happy. And this becomes our perspective. I hear this across the board, especially when I discuss it with my son from young relationships. I look at, and honestly, the misconception between boys and girls. Girls really feel like they have to be won over. And boys are the ones trying to capture the girl's attention. On the other flip side, women do get dressed and try and grab as much attention as they can. But what I find in the dynamic of relationships, especially with young adults, is I find men are becoming more self-aware emotionally. They're also becoming more attentive to what other women's needs are. But they've also lost a connection with themselves. It's like, what is it that they want? So I see a lot of good boys afraid to communicate with girls. The reason being is because they don't feel attractive, they fear rejection, they're not strong in their own power. With girls, I see a lot of girls not appreciate the good guys, but actually put effort into the guys that don't validate them.
giving the benefit of the doubt to meanness.
To meanness.
It's like it's just like I feel like there's an acceptance of nice guys finish last, and we've just gone fuck it. That's how it works.
Nice guys without balls finish last, because well, hand up. So one of the best books, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I'd honestly suggest everyone read that book. If you're a man, read that book. When it talks about the process and how men have evolved over time and that we've lost ourselves. And the one thing that he says in the book is that nice guys are liars. And when I was given the book, I did not. I read the title. I was like, that's not for me. I don't believe in that. Treat him mean to keep him keen type of mentality. It does not work. I also understand how men are confused with that, because women subconsciously also play these games. Like, they want to be chased, so they create an environment where you need to chase them, and then out of respect for them, because they've said they don't want you to chase them, you leave them alone. And then all of a sudden you're getting accused of not putting the work in or the effort in. So there's discrepancy. And then the guy goes, okay, well, she said she doesn't want to be with me, so I'm going to keep trying. And he keeps trying because he thinks, oh, that's what she wants. And then she rejects him because it's like, he's too needy. So men are stuck in this like emotional standpoint, because their purpose has then become to make that person happy. And in the book, he explains that nice guys are liars. I'm like, no, I'm actually one of the most honest, straightforward type of dude. And then when I realized, I was like, actually, no, I'm guilty of that. And I learned that from my dad. Basically, what a lot of nice guys do is they try to maintain the peace. And in order to maintain the peace, you become a liar. You will stop saying things because you don't want to deal with the consequences, especially if there's no emotional attachment to it. And I believe that, as a guy, stops you from just being you, stops being your truth. When two men are together, no one cracks the shits what the other one says. We have a plan to catch up. You sleep in, you don't wake up in time. You ghost me, and I end up going to this party on my own. And the next morning, I give you a serve, and all you do is say, dude, I had so-and-so over. We had a big night. I got lost track of time, fell asleep. But if you had a goal, you probably wouldn't want to say that you were up playing games with your mate, etc., because you're afraid of the emotional consequences of that. So the white lies stay superficial. And even when you're honest with your partner, you still end up with these feelings of anxiety based on what's going to come from my truth. So something as simple as getting stuck at work for an hour after everybody's left, you know that your partner might become, based on their experience, sus about why you stayed at work so late. It doesn't make sense, but there wasn't traffic on the way home. Did you stop off to get paid? There's all these questions. So in order to avoid that, because they're giving the benefit of the doubt to meanness, they don't realize actually he's the only one in the office pushing that extra hour because he's going to close this deal by tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think that's if you're in that situation, I think that's an immense lack of communication.
All right, let me ask you a direct question. If your partner rings you and you can't answer the phone, do you feel any anxiety whatsoever? How long does it take for you to return the call?
Generally, pretty quick. Generally pretty quick, because I prioritize my relationship.
Well, I'll be honest. I do too. I'm like you. There's two reasons why I prioritize my relationship, if I'm honest with you. The older I get, the more I prioritize my relationship because it's important to me. In the past, I would prioritize my relationship not only because it was important to me, because I felt I needed that more than I needed anything else. So it's not about making the other person happy. It's about me holding on to something
Yeah,
that validates.
it's a different, more healthy motive.
But actually, for me, it's unhealthy. For me, the fact that I'm holding on to it because I'm too afraid to be without it. It's like, not because it's coming from a place of want. It's coming from a place of need. And the other part was because I did that in truthfulness, was because I was afraid of not being on call. What are the consequences of not being available when my partner needs me? I could lose him. They could doubt me. They might think I'm doing something that I'm not and get mad at me. If I don't answer the phone, they're going to ring somebody else, and that person's going to help them. Those aren't healthy reasons to live in that way. So we become on call rather than actually connecting to the reason why I actually want to ring back. We all have these abilities, like with my kids. I don't care what they do, how long they stay out. They can have, but if they say they're going to be home at 1, I don't care if it's 1:45. Text me. So if I wake up at 1:30 and you're not home, I can see why. I have this need to know that my family's safe. I have a need even that if Kai is going to different parts or different parties and different things throughout the night, I've asked him, can you let me know every time you're at the next stage? Doesn't matter what time that is, just I'm here now, I'm here now, I'm here now. I have this need. If he doesn't do it, in the past, I would be, that's disrespectful. You know I'm concerned. You should worry me. But it's not their problem. It's my problem. It's my need. It's what I want. So he understands that importance for me, and he understands that the need comes from my parental conditioning of wanting to make sure I know it. Because there's nothing I can do, drive down the Gold Coast in 30 minutes, but the idea that I know makes me more comfortable.
Yeah.
And he wants to make me comfortable. He doesn't feel this need that he has to because of the consequences. But if I gave him a serve every time he didn't, then he would start to treat me in that way, always let me know, but not because he wants to, but because he's afraid of dealing with the consequences if he doesn't. And then what does that do to our father-son relationship? And this is what I mean when it comes to couples relationships as well, giving the benefit of the doubt to the meanness as opposed to giving the benefit of the doubt. This is a problem for me, not because it's negative, but because it's positive. Meaning, I'm addressing this with you because I want to move on to the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
I want to resolve this. This is with positive intention that I'm coming to you with this problem. But the first thing you said, which was right, is that when people come with a problem, the attention goes to the negative. They have an issue. It's their issue. Like you said, because of you, for you go, well, it's their issue. I care enough to help them with their issue. So that's a more evolved way of looking at it. But majority of the time, it's not like that. It becomes, oh, they're always complaining, oh, my girlfriend's so jealous. She's so insecure. My boyfriend is just won't let me do this, won't let me do that. But they don't realize that, hold on, take a step back and figure out why it is that they've come to you with this in the first place. I also feel that people, when they come, it's that reactive process. So they're basing on the emotions. This is a problem for me. So when I address it to you, I'm addressing it from the energy of the problem. It's human nature. I'm being reactive. The worst part is I'm being irrational. So I come with this idea that you've been working very long hours, you haven't been very attentive, you've been kind of distant, so I'm pretty sure you're having an affair. Where did I get that from?
Past baggage.
Past baggage. Past baggage from my parents' relationships, from my past relationships, from the fear of my brother having a similar experience. I've brought that to you. And my emotions then get heightened. And when I come to you, I'm presenting the problem from those emotions, which now comes from saying I have a problem to actually accusing. Even if I don't say you are having an affair, the energy that comes with it has this accusation energy. From somebody who's going to work to provide for the family, your first instinct, generally speaking, could be defensiveness. Because A, you don't feel like you're being seen. You definitely don't feel like your efforts by going to work are being appreciated. And now you're being judged for a consequence of something. You can even further that say, and the simple fact that your partner thinks you're having an affair when you're not, can instill a fear that they might leave you because they believe you are, which is why you're working so late. So the reasons, the positive reasons that we have involving there have now been integrated with negative energy. And then we cannot solve that. We can't solve that problem if we're in that negative energy.
Yes.
What would your take? So, for example, a girl who has a boyfriend that's super attentive. Oh, I just don't have the passion. Just you're a great guy. I think you're amazing. You do everything for me. I'm just not feeling like you're the one. But the guy who's been ghosting her or not returning calls is more of an appeal for her.
It's the carelessness. It goes back to that needy comment that you made. It's the carelessness of the bad boy. Let's take it right back to that
So what
cliche.
you're
Let's
saying
take
is
it
that
back to that cliche.
but you're externalizing it. So you're saying that the reason why I'm attracted to the bad boy is because he's the bad boy.
No, you're not attracted to the bad boy. You're not attracted to the fact that he's an asshole. You're not attracted to the fact that he's going to treat you poorly. You're attracted to the fact that he's not needy,
No, you're
or
attracted.
what you perceive as being needy.
No, you're attracted to the challenge of being validated by somebody who doesn't see you.
That's a
That's my
that's
take
a,
on it.
that's
You
the way
see,
that's the
because
way.
the way I see it is like I see a lot of these really good guys putting effort in and communicating, and I'm a big believer in men being protectors. As a man, you have to be comfortable doing uncomfortable things, but also as a man, your job is to make your partner happy, to be soft and strong at the same time. And these
Can I
guys are.
challenge that?
Eh?
Can I challenge that?
Oh, wait, go for it, bro.
Make your partner. I don't think happiness is somebody else's job. I think that is dependent upon yourself.
When I say by making your partner happy, is by creating a safe space for them to protect themselves or process their own emotions. So for me, what makes me happy isn't my partner resolving me. What makes me happy is that I can sit with her and talk to her about the issues that are in mine, and she doesn't make it about her. She will sit, she'll listen to me. I'm very attentive as well because I understand that I might have a problem with her behavior, but her behavior isn't the problem. The fact that I have a problem with her behavior is the problem. And that's what I want to resolve. And then I have to understand, number one, why do I have it? And 90% of the time, it's because I have an insecurity based on the perception of the reason why they're behaving that way. So the reason that I attach to their behavior can be completely different to them. But I've attached the reason to it and I have a problem. So I'll discuss it with her to get more clarity. And if really there's 90% of the time there's really no issue, because her actions and the perception of her mind during those actions are completely different to what I was. I'm just carrying previous baggage. But if she creates an open space to allow me to process that, so it's kind of like I can get myself up, but it would be great for you to help me get up. So you're there making sure that I have enough space to stand up. You might reach your hand out a little bit, but I'll pull myself up. You don't pick me up. But knowing that I've got you means I'm not going to fall back down. So when it comes to that dynamic of validation, I believe that we don't validate ourselves. I believe that the biggest thing with human nature is that we constantly look for external validation and we don't look internally. And a woman or a man who's validated within themselves, they're not going to seek it from somebody that doesn't. It's if someone doesn't see your value, but the others people that do, you will naturally gravitate towards your tribe because you have a similar viewpoint. But if you're not sure and you don't validate yourself, it doesn't matter how much you validate me, I'm not going to really believe it. The person who doesn't validate me, I relate to that because I don't validate myself. There's a commonality there. And then my challenge becomes subconsciously to try and get them to validate me. Because if that person has zero interest in me and now they're starting to, that means I'm worth something. And it's kind of like instead of me focusing on myself and validating myself, I'm looking for it externally. What happens in the process, I kind of do a sales pitch to get that validation. So I portray someone I'm not truly, just somebody that I want to be that will actually get the validation for me. So you're constantly jumping from relationship to relationship, getting bored and moving on to the next thing. And realistically, the relationship that's there is there to challenge you. That's my belief system. It's like you said, I want to make my partner happy. I want to create the right space for my partner to be happy. Creating that space in itself makes her happy. But the happiness is really up to her to find and to enjoy.
It doesn't make her happy. It allows her.
It allows her. And there we have it. I will leave it there, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the I Alpha Project. And the main thing that I find nowadays is very rare to find unique friends like that where you can actually sit and talk about difficult conversations. Recently in society, when people have opposing views, we tend to be judgmental and not open to each other's perspectives. We may agree with one another, we may disagree with one another, but at least we'll learn more about ourselves and our friends if we're open to discussion. And we tend to show affection and love for who we are as people unconditionally, regardless of our views. I hope that helped, guys. Have a great one.